Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another edition of the AVIS Vaani curations. Before I begin, let me serve a gentle reminder here. Please, when you interact with people outside your home, please double mask yourselves, preferably. Please maintain a safe distance, and do remember to wash your hands frequently. It's only by staying together through collective behavior can we beat coronavirus. So on that note, let's get started. My name is Avis, and there is Vaani, my soulmate, my best friend, my companion.
Hello, everyone.
So Vaani and I, we are the happynesswalas. Google us. We have a fascinating story to share. happynesswalas, happynesswalas. We are going through a very difficult time in our life. We're going through, for the last 14 years, a crippling bankruptcy. This means that for long spells of time, we've been dealing with worklessness, often pennilessness. Our material lives are broken. It's a very dark phase, full of pain. And there's, it has had an enduring quality, this pain, because it's lasted 14 years already. And yet, in this time, Vaani and I, we awoke to our life's purpose, which is inspiring happiness. You see, when all this started sometime in 2007, 2008, we kind of recognized that this is going to be a long drawn out affair. We sensed intuitively that we must be prepared to face the situation rather than fear it or run away from it. And so we prepared ourselves by training our mind. We trained our mind to be non-worrying, to be non-frustrated, and to be non-suffering, which is when we deal with a worry that arises, we don't pick it up. When we make an effort to achieve something and it doesn't add up and the results don't come the way we want them to come, we don't get frustrated. And in the face of intense pain, we do not ask ourselves or ask a higher energy. We don't ask, why me? So when you are faced with pain and you don't ask why me, you don't suffer. So we learned the art of being non-suffering, non-frustrated, and non-worrying. When you're that way, when you're non-worrying, non-frustrated, and non-suffering, you can only be happy. And we learned to be happy despite our circumstances. We also realized that we needed to flip another paradigm, which is, on one side, we were trying to be successful, earn money, repay our debt, climb out of all our challenges, but that wasn't happening. So success was being elusive. So we flipped the paradigm and we said, hey, even if we can't be successful, how can we be useful? So in 2014, we decided to share our journey with the world. I wrote my book, Fall Like a Rose Petal, which came out in 2014. It's going to be, in fact, tomorrow would be its anniversary, the day it was launched, 1st of August, 2014. In 2019, the Tamil translation of this book, Udirum Roja Idar Pola, translated by the legendary Tamil writer Charukesi, was published. Both the books are on Amazon. And in these books, we share the lessons that we as a family have learned going through this dark phase of our life, lessons on how to be happy and content while living without money. We also retooled our business, and today we run a small boutique consulting firm where we distill lessons on life and happiness to inspire managers to high performance. We also started in 2015 a series of live, reflective, non-commercial conversations on the central idea of happiness. One of these conversation series is called Happiness Conversations. And in this series, we explore the journeys of people who have every reason to be unhappy. And yet they've chosen to be happy despite their circumstances. They're going through life-changing crisis like me and Vaani, but they, like us, have learned the art of being detached from the problem. While working on the problem, they've learned to be happy. And so we go and learn from their experiences through that conversation series. The second conversation series, the one that you've joined us for this evening, is called Bliss Catchers. Bliss Catchers is a celebration of life itself. Bliss Catchers celebrates the philosophy of famous American mythologist and author Joseph Campbell. Campbell famously said, "When you follow your bliss, doors will open. The world will see only walls, but you will see doors there, and those doors will open for you." Vaani and I have believed in this philosophy all our life. And particularly in the last 14 years, through this very traumatic, through this very gruesome time that we've been going through as a family, we've seen doors open for us, only because we have stayed true to our own bliss. So Bliss Catchers explores the journeys of people who have gone on to do what they love doing in life. And in this series, we bring you interesting stories. To introduce today's edition, let me lean on a thought expressed by Swami Vivekananda. You see, Vaani and I were watching a film on Netflix some weeks ago. I can't remember the name of the film, but somewhere one of the characters quotes Swami Vivekananda and says that you will be nearer to heaven playing football than studying the Bhagavad Gita. I was intrigued. Swami Vivekananda, a champion of religion, a champion of culture, talking about football taking you closer to heaven than studying of the Bhagavad Gita. So I looked up this quote on the internet, and it was indeed a thought expressed by Swami Vivekananda. And that led me to believe that here's a man that who not only championed what truly religion is all about, or what Hinduism is all about, or what communal harmony is all about, or what he didn't only talk about culture, but he talked about life itself. And he said that if you are happy playing football, then it's better you play football than trying to study the Bhagavad Gita. So he looked at a more elevated things from a more elevated point of view. That was very powerful. Rumi, my favorite poet, the 13th century Persian poet, he says everyone has been made for a particular work, and the desire for that work is embedded in every heart. So is placed in every heart. That's what he said. So Rumi and Vivekananda kind of concur there, that if you're happy doing something, go do it, because that's what you've been created for. That's why you're here on this planet. Campbell kind of looks at it from the point of view of religion, and this is what he has to say. He says, the people who talk about religion tell me that I cannot experience bliss unless I have died and unless I have gone to heaven. But I want to experience as much of this as possible while I'm still alive. So such an interesting thought again. He says that what is the point in waiting to die to experience bliss? You might as well experience it while you're alive. And that's true, because none of the people that have gone on the other side has come back to tell us what it is on the other side. So this is the only life we have. Might as well live it fully. Might as well live it happily. That's what this series goes on to explore. We are in season 7 of this series. We've done 60 editions so far, and we've featured 119 Bliss Catchers. And in all their stories, we find 4 common threads. The first fact is that everyone who's followed their bliss has reported that doors have opened for them. The second is that everyone who's followed their bliss has said that they chose to follow their bliss because the cost of not following it was higher than the cost of following it. Most people who followed the bliss have reported that they have found bliss to be profitable. And it's actually a no-brainer, because if you love doing something and you become world-class at doing it, if you're great at doing it, money always follows. And the last point that they make is that bliss for them is not a hobby. It's not something that they do on the side. It's what they do for their entire life. Their entire life depends on it. And that's why we made this film in August 2019, when we completed 50 editions of Bliss Catchers. We had a Bliss Catcher, a conservation educator, and filmmaker Ramnath Chandrasekhar come up and make this film, The Reason Why You Live. So this 12-minute film talks about the journey of Bliss Catchers and also explores the sentiments of many people who were featured on the show. You can catch it on my YouTube channel. It's a short film. If you like it, do share it around. Today, I have with me Bliss Catchers number 120 and 121. Food designer, the young, very young, Akash Muralidharan, and the young, candid wedding photographer, Vinay Aravind. Both have very interesting stories. Vinay, in fact, his story is a little more unique because he's still wondering whether is photography my bliss? We believe it is, and he says it's keeping him happy and content, but he wouldn't confirm if it's his bliss. So it's an exciting journey to explore, and we're looking forward to that exploration very shortly. Before I get there, I want to quickly, before I get down to introducing my two guests in greater detail, let me quickly thank the audience for being with us. We have people from all over joining us today. We have people from Chennai and Bengaluru. We have someone from California, from Concord. We have someone from Blacksburg in Virginia. We have someone from Dubai, from Colombo, from Pala in Kerala, from Kochi, Mysuru, Dharwad, and somebody from Dindigul. So that's quite an interesting range of places that people have joined in from. And some people may still join in. But thank you, everyone, for making the time and joining us. This is a 90-minute conversation. We've started on time, and we'll finish sharp at 8:30 p.m. During this entire conversation, the audience will be on mute. We request you to turn off your videos so we can squeeze extra bandwidth to record the conversation. We will not be responding to any raised hands or questions during the conversation. This format does not allow us to have an audience Q&A at the end. So if you have comments, if you have thoughts, keep them coming through the conversation, keep them coming into the chat box, and we will pick them up at the end of the conversation and share it with Vinay and with Akash. So that's how we will go about this conversation. In case any of you is experiencing any audio or video difficulties at the moment, please step out of the meeting and rejoin. It should be a Zoom issue and it will settle down. Just a word on tech. Additionally, Vaani and I are on separate devices. We have a 24/7 generator backup in this building. So in the unlikely event of an internet outage or a power outage, we should be back with you very quickly. Please do bear with us. So on that note, let me get down to introducing Akash and Vinay. How do we know Akash? So Vaani discovered Akash for us. She found his social media campaign very interesting. Last year, he had shared a campaign on Cook and See, which was more a tribute on one side to the legendary Meenakshi Ammal and her book and her cookbook, Samaithuppar, Cook and See, But through Cook and See, the campaign, what Akash was really doing was he was bringing attention, the focus on to locally grown vegetables, which had fallen off our plates. That's really what he was doing. We dug up information on Akash on the internet and discovered that he has a powerful story. So we got on a Zoom call with him last December and chatted up with him to discover that he had grown up on his grandmother Kamala Natarajan's food and the aroma and the conversations in the kitchen. He still carries it in his heart. But he went on to do, I would have thought he would have wanted to be a chef, but he went on to do architecture. Coming out of architecture school, he decided that he neither wanted to be a chef, nor did he want to be a typical architect in a studio. So he decides to blend his love for food and his deep passion for design, and he marries the two of them to create a space for himself called a food designer. He goes off to Milan in Italy to study for a year at the SPD Milan, which is a school that inspires creative thinking, that inspires experimentation and expression. And he's back in Chennai, again, making a very different sort of move. One would have thought he would be lost somewhere in Europe, in the Americas, exploring food and design, but he comes back home to his roots to set up a food design practice. So an exciting conversation with him coming up there. Honestly, I don't know how I ended up one day on Vinay Aravind's website. I don't know why I went there. I don't know who asked me to look it up. And I really don't remember somebody asking me to look it up. But if I had not looked it up, I would not have known that he existed, and we would not have this fabulous story. So on his website, I discovered a couple of things about him. I discovered that he's a lawyer who was unhappy being a lawyer, so he quit the job. And he quit the job with no job in hand. And he quit the job with a deep quest within him to do new things, meet new people, and go through new experiences. A friend kind of talks to him one day randomly about the exposure triangle of a camera, and Vinay goes and invests a good part of his savings, even when he doesn't have a job, in a camera, in a DSLR, shoots a friend's wedding just out of fun, some fun pictures, some candid pictures, and like anybody would do if they were carrying a DSLR and going to a wedding. And then word gets around. He lands his first gig in May 2011. And 10 years later, he's done 300 weddings. And he says he's very happy and content, but will still not admit whether it's his bliss or not. So that's an interesting story coming up. Both these gentlemen were met by us on Zoom, so we haven't met them physically. See, all our conversations are curated well in advance, and we are always processing and planning the calendar well in advance. So we met them in December last year on Zoom, and then invited them to be part of the July edition. So it's been quite a while since we did the Zoom call with them. And we're very happy that both of them are here with us, and we do have a beautiful conversation lined up. Thank you, gentlemen. Vinay and Akash, feeling good? Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can hear us?
Very well.
Akash?
Yes.
All good. Great. So let's start with Akash. Akash, my first question for you is, in Indian culture, we always have this thing of the grandma, the party, the dadi, the nani that we grow up with. And we grow up on their stories, we grow up on their food, we fall in love with their food. And but in your case, it not only has it remained close to your heart that you grew up in your grandma's kitchen with her aromas and recipes and conversations, but it actually led to having a love affair with food. So why do you think it has endured in your life? That's my first question.
Okay. I'll start off by expressing my gratitude towards AVIS and Vaani. Thank you for having me here. I'll go back to answering your question. Unfortunately, my grandmother, Mrs. Kamala, is not with me anymore. But all the memories that I hold on, that I have with my grandmother, are associated or always present in the kitchen. It's either her in the kitchen or it's her with me in the kitchen. So I think that might have been a starting point. And we grew up in a large joint family. So when all the men were away at work and it was only the women in the house, they were always in the kitchen. And these are the three, the most influential women, I would say, in my life, who I would spend a lot of time in the kitchen with, because that's where they would spend, their days. And that's where a lot of conversations would happen as well. Our meal time in the kitchen, very humble meals where we would sit down on the floor. We didn't have any dining tables. We would all gather around, sit down on the floor. All the food would be kept in the center, and my grandmother or my mom or my aunt will be serving while we will be exchanging conversations. My dad would be asking me on how my day was, how my school was, and also coming back after school, we would have had a tiring day, to find your mom or your aunt cooking something for you. It might be just an upma or a sundal, but that they would feed you as they ask you on how your day was, how it was. So I think the first step for me about the fascination around the food was how it could bring people together, how it could connect people, how we could bond over it. And the second step, I would say, is where my grandmother came in and helped me. She's a very passionate woman, self-made. I should credit her for where I am and where my family is at this point. And the vivid memory that I have with her is of her and me making Mysore Pak secretly in the kitchen once my mom and my aunt go to sleep, because she's old. So if I ask her to make something for me, she would happily do it. But my parents were always concerned. So we would wait for my parents, my mom, my aunt to go to take their afternoon nap, and then immediately sneak into the kitchen and then start making the Mysore Pak. But it was only later that I realized that I didn't enjoy eating it. I mean, of course, I was very happy to eat it, but it was the process of making the Mysore Pak with my grandmother that gave me so much happiness, gave me so much satisfaction. And that's one of the points where I realized that I loved creating, that I loved making something with food. At that point, it was not necessarily food for me. I loved creating anything. I was good at art. I was good at crafts. So those were steps that led me to endure my passion for food, my love affair with food, essentially.
Your memories are fresh. Somewhere my memories had faded into, had receded into the background because I'm much older than you are. But then you revived those memories for me. I remember sitting on the floor in my party's house in Nungambakam, Chennai, and having adai. That was my favorite dish. Or she would make kesari for me. So I remember that. So thank you for reviving that, very vividly described. One of the things that we can learn from this is, look at the joy when he's telling that story. When we all sit back and think about what makes us come alive, we will invariably find a dotted line connection to what we did in our childhood. There will be a connection to what we did in our childhood. So we are unhappy with the life situation right now, and we want to flip it, and we want to soak in happiness. We need to ask ourselves, what is it that made me happy as a child, and actually go back and do it, and you can revive yourself. So there is a deep connection between our adult lives, what makes us happy and what can make us happy, and what made us happy as children. That's my takeaway from what he's saying. Akash, let me move on with your story, and let me ask you the next question, which is, I mean, with such a, I mean, look at how evocative your memories were for me. The way you presented it, the way you told your story, with that kind of love, you may have wanted to become a chef, but instead you opted for architecture. That's intriguing on one side, and I want to ask you related point there. Did you not miss being around the kitchen, around food, when you went away to study architecture?
I would start off by saying I think at no point in my life I have not been around the kitchen or not been around the food. I've always been there. But yes, at that point, I think by the time I was in high school, I didn't have a very wide perspective about food or cooking. Even though I loved it, I loved cooking. I cherished being in the kitchen. It wasn't really enough for me. I wanted to be creative. I wanted to create things every day. I wasn't sure if I would be happy to be a chef. At that point, for me, being a chef was cooking the same things again and again. That was not enough for me. I wanted to be creative, keep exploring, keep creating things. And at that point, I didn't really know that even as a chef, I could do that. So I decided to do something with design, with fashion designing. But I was a very studious kid. I was good with academics, and my family really wanted me to do something of sorts of engineering or become a doctor. So I decided to meet them midway, and I said, okay, I'll become an architect. So somewhere in between a designer and an engineer, okay, an architect. I started my architecture school with a lot of enthusiasm. There's a lot to learn. I learned a lot. And the fourth year of architecture gives you an opportunity to do an internship, to go out and explore the world and see, what architects can do. And it was an eye-opening moment for me as well. 1 year outside Chennai. For the first semester, I was in Bangalore, a bustling city, which had a lot of new restaurants, new food experiences, pubs, so much to explore. And then the second semester, I was in a rural setup. It's completely starkly different from what I was doing the first. In the rural setup, I was about 100 kilometers away from Bangalore, living in a village in a 100-year-old house. I had to fend for myself. I had to cook with whatever was available there. And that was again a different way of interaction that I had with food. And moving on, when I did my thesis in the 5th year, I also ended up picking a topic related to food, which is agritourism. I wanted to do an agritourism center in Chennai. And that gave me opportunity to meet and interact with a lot of people who were connected with food. And one such very influential couple that I met in Karnataka, Vivek and Julie Karyappa, they are farmers. I don't really remember what they professionally studied for, but right now they are into farming, and they opened up my mind to a bigger world, I would say, where there was space for exploring food, growing food, with eating, the way we were all interacting with food, and it was very fascinating for me. And that also pushed me to see if I would be happy being an architect, sitting in a studio and working for the whole day. Will that give me happiness? Will I be driven, passionate to do that every day? Was something that I started questioning myself. And since architecture taught me to be passionate, to own up and do what I love doing, I thought, why stop with just architecture or fashion? I could still do it with food. It's something that I sort of learned or transitioned through the 5 years of architecture course that I did.
Wow. What a fascinating journey. I mean, those 5 years, the way you describe it, I wish I had studied architecture along with you. Very interesting. My college was very, I went to college in Kerala, and most of the time things were shut in my era. I think they're still shut sometimes for samaram political reasons. They used to call it samaram strikes. So I wish I had internships like the one that you had. What I'm picking up from you, though, is um, a quality that Bliss has, which is it will find you, it will embrace you, it will tiptoe into your life. And, you went to study architecture, but look at where life took you. It gave you Bangalore, the hub of all cosmopolitan culinary experiences, perhaps. Then it took you to rural Karnataka on one level, and then took you to a Bliss Catcher couple, Julie and Vivek Karyappa. They quit their corporate jobs in 1986 and went on to do farming because they said they wanted to live a meaningful, happy life. So not only did you get a crash course in agri-tourism or organic farming, you also got a crash course through osmosis, if I can say, of what Bliss Catcher's life can truly be. So you got that exposure. So that's amazing. So Bliss kind of tiptoes into our lives. It finds its way, and that's what I'm picking up from your journey. I'm going to pause your journey here. I'm going to go to Vinay and start the conversation with him and start his journey. Vinay, first question. What about being a lawyer made you very unhappy? And how did that unhappiness kind of give you the courage to quit and deep dive into an area of, if I can call it uncertainty, with no job in hand? I thought it's an act of courage. So two questions there together.
Thanks, Avis. What made me unhappy? Lawyering itself is quite interesting. I mean, you solve people's problems and all of that. But what happens is that when you get more and more senior in a corporate law firm, it's more and more about doing a lot of admin stuff. Managing clients, business development, some HR type work. So as I got more senior in the firm, it felt like there was a lot more of the dreary stuff, which was occupying my day-to-day routine. And I mean, maybe I was just, I was like, there's got to be something better than, there's got to be something better than this, out there. I don't know if I would call it courage as such, because, at the end of the day, I come from a very privileged background. I would never lack for, a roof over my head or food to eat. So in that sense, it's not such a difficult decision to have taken. But I thought, okay, I was 28 then. I was single. I had no, loans or anything to pay off. So I was like, I owe it to take a shot at this. If I don't do it, I'm sure I'll probably regret it later. So I thought, okay, let me give it a shot. And I thought, okay, in a worst case, I can go live with my parents, or so I spoke to my firm and told them I'm going to take some time off and see if I want to come back or not. And they were very nice about it. So I still appreciate what they did. And then after a month or so, I traveled a little bit, and I was okay. After a month or so, I was sure that no, I'm definitely not going back. So I went and told them, I'm definitely not coming back. And then I tried my hand at all sorts of stuff. I did some freelance writing. Then I took on a research project. I managed tech for a vaccinology conference.
But did you have a kind of a theme? Did you have a kind of a theme on what you were going to look for?
Not really. I was like, I think vaguely creative, something like that. I had some idea in my mind, but it was a very sort of unstructured sort of. I was stumbling around, I suppose. So.
But you were willing to do new things.
Yeah,
you were willing to do.
So the idea, what I really told myself was that, like, I'll explore new places, new people, new experiences. Like, even if it goes against my instinct, which is why this vaccinology conference came along, and I was like, it's like so random, but I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. 10 days, I'm going to go to Vellore. I'm going to just live in Vellore and do this thing. and it was great. It was. I still remember. It didn't make any difference to my career, but I still remember that very fondly. So
this is beautiful. New places, new people, new experiences. That's a nice way to approach life. At 28, you were quite sorted, man, Vinay. At 28, you were quite sorted with that kind of outlook. You know, it's like your hair is longer than mine, but you also have a deeper insight into life at that age. Amazing. So you not everyone who's got deep insight needs to lose hair, is what I'm saying. But what I'm picking up is something beautiful. When we feel unhappy about life, we try to push it under the carpet. We try to move away from it because it's uncomfortable. Unhappiness makes us uncomfortable. But if you actually pick up the unhappiness, the source of the unhappiness, hold it up and see it, you will find that this is making me unhappy and I got to act on it in this way. So more logical thinking follows that, like what happened with you. Like, I'm 28, and if I'm not going to do it now, when am I going to do it? And let me try new people, new places, new experiences. I think that's the logical reasoning that I'm talking about. I'm not saying you must have you may always have a very clear-cut idea, this is where my life is going. No, you may be clear about being not sure about, you may not be sure about what you want to do, but you may be sure about what you don't want to do. And that's great clarity by itself. So I think that's what I'm picking up from that answer of yours. Very, very powerful perspective. Campbell, in fact, says that you must be willing to let go of the life you have planned to experience the life that is waiting for you. So isn't that beautiful? That ties in so much. That ties in so much with what you just said.
Absolutely.
So how did photography happen? I mean, it's vaccinology conference, doing tech for somebody, drawing up lease deeds and stuff like that on the side was one thing, but photography is so far removed. How did that happen?
Providence, I guess. I've always had some interest in sort of visual, like visual creative aspects. But photography always seemed like something that was really complicated, really like a dark arcane art that really specialized professionals would do. But I happened to be chatting with a friend of mine, Pradeep. He's a photographer, and he was trying to explain this exposure triangle, shutter speed, aperture, all that. And I was like, hey, actually, this sounds like it's not so hard, misplaced confidence or whatever. But I thought, okay, this sounds like something I want to try at least. I didn't immediately think, okay, this is a career or anything like that. But I was like, okay, this is something that sounds interesting and worth exploring. So then I ordered a DSLR. I bought the cheapest one I could find because I was eating away from my not very generous pool of savings. And then a friend of mine was getting married, and I was going to attend the wedding anyway in Delhi. And I thought, okay, let me shoot this. I'll shoot it as if I'm a photographer. So I did some research. I watched many tutorials on
which year was this?
This is 2011. This was like March 2011, 2 or 3 months after I quit my job.
Okay.
And I did a bit of research and landed up at this wedding and shot the whole thing. And when I saw the pictures, again with this misplaced confidence, I thought, oh, the pictures look amazing. Right now when I look back, I'm thinking, okay, maybe not. But at that time, I didn't know enough to know how good or bad it was. So I convinced myself that, okay, I could maybe give it a shot to make a living doing this. And then I just sort of told people, I want to do this, etc., etc., etc. And then this friend's somebody they knew contacted me for my first paid gig, which was in May of 2011. And so that was the wedding I shot that wedding in Bangalore, and that was like the first time. I charged some paltry amount for it, but which was fair enough considering I had no experience. And so that was like, and I feel it was nice. I mean, somebody paid me to take pictures. That, I mean, it felt great.
And how did you like the process of doing the first paid gig? I mean, in terms of not just the fact that you were able to be remunerated for it, but also the fact that you had a professional assignment to do. How did it make you feel?
I enjoyed it thoroughly. Like, I realized I love documenting people, which is sort of why I guess I've sort of been doing weddings. I like taking pictures of people. I like capturing their expressions. I like being on the lookout for these things. So the process was something that the mechanics of it, I really enjoyed it. Like, I
enjoyed the process.
This is fun. I mean, and if I can get paid to do this, great. So yeah,
that is it. You nailed it. That's what I was getting at, and I'm glad we got you to talk about the process itself. You enjoyed the process, and it made you happy. And if you can get paid for it, why not? That's it. In my earlier question, I was talking to Vinay about courage, and he kind of very modestly brushed it aside, saying, no, it's not an act of courage. See, an act of courage is not necessarily about bravado. It's about the spirit of adventure. Life intrinsically is full of uncertainty. The couple of things that are constant about life are uncertainty, impermanence, and death. You can take this as a guarantee with anybody's life. Life guarantees nothing else, actually. So if you are going to experience life from the circle of uncertainty and impermanence, then you're tasting the true quality of life. You know what? Education, the power of education and the power of the economic engine give you a misplaced notion that there is security. But there is no security. There is no security in life for anyone at any point in time. So you stepped out of the earning a living circle, and life embraced you with open arms and gave you that opening gig in May 2011, a process that you say you enjoyed, and that's how it flows. That's how really Bliss embraces you. So thank you for sharing that. I'll pause your story here. I'll go back to Akash for a couple of questions and then come back to you. So Akash, what led you to discover, or how did you discover SPD Milan? The first time I heard about the school was through you. So how did you end up discovering that school?
So I think I left at the 5th year of architecture school in my previous answer. So I'll start off from there. So I graduated in 2017, and by then I knew that I was not going to be happy being an architect in a studio. So I decided to try my hands at a couple of other things. And again, I think I'll have to acknowledge the fact that I was privileged enough to have a family who was open enough to let me explore. They gave me like 2 years time to find what I love doing. And that is something that I should be grateful for a long time. So once I started doing my exploration, it was quite wide. I tried teaching design at an architecture school for 6 months, and then found out I loved teaching, but I didn't have anything to give. That I needed a lot of experience to be a teacher, to keep giving. That I had a lot to learn. So I decided to keep it for a later part of my life, and then start digging into things that I can, enrich my experiences with. I tried my hand at helping a senior of mine set up an architecture studio, working part-time for him, so that I could pay a diploma course in animation to see if animation was something that I enjoyed doing every day. And it didn't really happen. So after finishing the course, the 6 months course, by then it was a year after my graduation, which was in June 2018. By then I had started baking. I baked cakes for my friends, for my family, started arranging food for parties. And until that point, I didn't realize that I would want to make a living out of it. It was in June 2018 that I was looking for opportunities for work, and then also was seeing if I could do a course that where I could bring together food and design, sort of a moment where I wanted to pursue food and design together, but didn't really have a lot of hopes because it didn't really seem to be a reality where I could bring food and design together. And that was when I typed in food and design together in Google, and I landed up in the page, the website of SPD Milan.
You actually typed food plus design?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because again, I didn't want to do food styling. I didn't want to do pastry. I wanted to have design, create something, and then like food to be there. It was very hard to define. So I just typed in food and design together and landed up in the page of the SPD, and it felt surreal. Like, if someone was playing a joke on me saying that there's a course where there's food and design together.
Oh.
It had everything that I wanted to, learning more about food and learning more about how you can, design with food. And the process was the application process was going on, and it was going to end in another 2 months. So I thought, okay, let me give it a shot. So the course was going to start in November. I applied in June. In 3 days, I got a reply. I applied a week later after I saw the website. I got my portfolio, put everything together, gave it a shot. I did not tell my family till then. They replied back saying, "We love your portfolio. We would like to, have an interview set up." And it felt unreal because finding a course that, that has both these things together that I would continue to love doing, and also like getting back a very positive reply immediately was, very reinforcing or boosting up my confidence and saying, okay, that this might be, a life-changing event. And then further, I continued. I took up the interview. Was very happy about it. They immediately, took me on the course. I immediately informed my family. In the beginning, there was a little bit of, hesitation. Moving from being an architect to a food designer. It was really hard for me to even make them understand what food design was. But my family was, supportive. They were happy that I was going to do that something that I loved, even though they did not completely understand what I was going to do. And at that point, even I've had relatives who would come and say that, you should, draw up an Excel sheet and compare how, as an architect, how much money you make in like 10 years down the lane, and how, as a food designer, if you would make any money like 10 years down the lane, see, weigh the benefits and then like make a sound decision. But all of that didn't really make sense to me. I didn't really know what I was going to do after the course, but it felt like it was going to be a life-changing event. It felt like it was my calling. Felt happy and good to go there. So
amazing.
Packed my bags and left.
Amazing. A couple of things there. I mean, you use the word surreal. You use the word unreal. You said it made you feel happy. And you intuitively felt that this was going to be a life-changing decision. And the fact that you typed, food plus design, and that's what led you to the school. That's how doors open. Those are the doors that, Campbell talks about. First of all, I want to thank your parents for, your dad, your mom, for allowing you the gap year. Gap year is very important. Step back, understand what makes you come alive, and then go forward with it. It can be gap years as well. It took me 35 years to discover what I was going to do with my life. 1 or 2 years is this way, that way is hardly an issue. But the key point is the last point that you mentioned, this Excel sheet, this analysis, which career is going to be more rewarding. You see, any career takes time growing. Whether you're a lawyer, you're a doctor, you're an engineer, you're a food designer, you're a photographer, you're a wedding photographer, you're a speaker, whatever career you get into, or a writer, you are going to take time. Whether you're a businessman, whether you're a trader, it's going to take some time. So why not do what gives you joy and allow it to grow over a period of time? The real ROI is not return on investment. The return on inspiration that Bliss gives you is unbeatable, It doesn't mean that your life will not have challenges. All our lives are going to have challenges. Harivansh Rai Bachchan has said this very powerfully. I don't agree with his entire statement, but it's still relevant here. He says that जीवन का मतलब है संघर्ष. जब तक जीवन है, तब तक संघर्ष है. He says that life means challenges. I disagree with that part of the statement. Life doesn't mean challenges alone, but from where he's seeing it and what the point he's trying to make is that as long as you're alive, chances are you will be dealing with one problem or the other, one challenge or the other. So might as well deal with it being happy doing what you love doing than dealing with a challenge and being unhappy with what you're doing. So that's what I'm picking up. So thank you for making that choice. How did Milan change you as a person? How did it transform you personally, professionally?
So Milan, the year in Milan was like I rightly had an insight of or intuitive about. It was definitely a life-changing experience. New country, new people, new culture, exposure to a lot of new perspectives about life, about food. The food design class had people from about 12 different nationalities. I met women from different countries. So I was one of the 2 guys in the class. So there were only 2 guys and then 16 girls in the class, and all of them from completely different nationalities. There's so much to learn from each other, share with each other. Since we were all fascinated about food, our lunch times were extremely, insightful. I would say, have learned so much from one lunch hour, from having to taste all the lunch that the other my classmates would have got. Making a French friend of mine try some chole bhature and then cry because of the spiciness in the, the chole. Well, definitely, very wonderful experiences. I also had the opportunity to run a workshop, Indian bread making workshop for all the girls, and they were so fascinated with the fact when I taught them on how to eat with hand. So it was all about learning from each other, unlearning, and then getting new perspectives, new thoughts about food from all of them. And one more additional advantage was that all of them were from professionally different backgrounds. They were graphic designers, marketing students. They were people who had studied English, history, cooking. So all of us coming together was a mind-opening experience, I would say. And then from there, it took me to Netherlands to do a short internship of 3 months with food designer Katja Gruiters, who again, I guess, like you said, Bliss tiptoes into life. I met her during a workshop in the university. And I went on to think how wonderful it would be to have a work experience with her. And fortunately, she wanted 3 students from the course who she wanted to work with for a specific project. And I was picked as one of them. And I was picked because I had a unique background, which had architecture and food together. She wanted to design installations for an exhibition about different ingredients that were coming from one specific region in the Netherlands. So I had to design installations for ingredients like eggs, for kale, for cheese, and converting food into spatial aspects was again another eureka moment that I had with Katja Gruiters, something that I'm thankful, grateful to her for opening my eyes to a space where I could use my architecture training and my the passion that I share for food together to make something unique out of it for me that only I could do.
That's beautiful. International experiences are always multicultural, multinational, and they give us a view of how large the world is and how small we are in the larger scheme of things. So it kind of humbles us and yet broadens our horizons. So I'm so glad you shared that experience in vivid detail. What I'm picking up here is that whether it is going to Milan or whether it is being able to do interesting stuff in Milan or connecting with Katya, it is the universe leading you in that direction. It is drawing you into a zone of fulfilling its own aspirations through you. We are all a product of creation, and we are all a product of life's longing for itself. So life is expressing itself through us. That's what our spiritual talent is all about, and that's what is happening to you. You're too young, but you'll pretty much begin to realize the value of what you've been through as you age. Like good wine, you will kind of mature, and you will see. I mean, you already see a lot of it as enriching you, but you will see how unputdownable, how invaluable this experience has been. So thank you for sharing that. Let me go to Vinay, and I'll come back to you in a bit for at least one more question. So Vinay, continuing your journey, the when I look at your website and I see the quality of work that you do, amazing pictures, your ability to capture the moment is quite not just inspiring. I mean, there's a soul connect there. There is a moment of soul in your pictures. I'm intrigued because you are very low profile, and yet you made this a very workable, viable, thriving model. So how did this happen? And I'm also saying this because 10 years ago, you must have been among the first people to enter the wedding photography space. How do you make all this work while still being a very quiet, below the radar kind of guy?
I mean, I don't know if I would call it thriving. I know you call it thriving, especially in this pandemic time. It's been definitely less than thriving. That said, mostly I've just been really, really fortunate. Like you said, in 2011, there were not a lot of people doing this kind of, candid type wedding photography. So that way I was really lucky that, I could just try this out and sort of learn on the job and get paid for it. So, and I got the opportunity to build up experience, and the big thing for me was word of mouth. And still, even now with all, I mean, I'm not very good with social media marketing, but even so, maybe 90-95% of my work is still word of mouth. Somebody has seen my picture, somebody's told somebody about it. So that's pretty much how it's been working. I mean, I keep getting advice, or I sometimes tell myself also, I should do more marketing, I should post more on Instagram, I should do all of those things. But somehow the other, like I said, I mean, the circumstances have been very kind to me, and work has come in, and and even during the pandemic, I've been selling prints and doing some portrait shoots and all that, and even that's the response. I was myself taken aback by how much support there was to buy prints, to hire me to do portrait shoots, stuff like that. So
one of the things about you is also that you're a very you're a very different kind of a wedding photographer. You work alone, so do you see huge advantages in just being a one-man show?
I mean, yes. I mean, it's the only way I can think of working, because I'm very much a control freak. bit of a perfectionist in that I'm not perfectionist maybe, but I need things to be a certain way. And I can't imagine outsourcing it to people. I can't imagine managing a team. All of the stuff that I left behind in the law firm, I didn't want to come and replicate that just in a photography context. So this was good. I mean, it gave me, it gave me some flexibility. It gave me, I mean, I could do whatever I wanted, right? I could, if I want, I mean, I could take on whatever I wanted to do. I'm not, sort of depending on other people.
So you don't necessarily bring in a team, you don't bring in drones, you don't bring in an army of people getting under everyone's skin. You don't do that.
Yeah, no. People ask me for it. I very politely tell them that I'm not, I'm not the guy for that kind of requirement. So I mean,
when you say you politely say that, are you saying you politely decline such opportunities?
I do, because I can't do it. Like, I mean, there's only one way for me to work, and that's by myself. So this 300 odd weddings that I've done, every single one, it's just me. I've turned up and taken pictures, and that's the way I work, and I can't imagine doing it in any other way.
I don't know. I'm at a loss for words. What you just said is something very, very, very profound. At one level, it's very modest. So you remind me of, in a way, the way you're saying it, there is a sign of, no aggression there. There is a sign of complete equanimity there, which is, I'm like this only. I like to work like this only. Work comes along through word of mouth. It's, it's very anti what is going on around us. So you remind me of Amitabh Bachchan, who says, despite all his stature, all his stardom, mega stardom, he keeps saying, "Bas kaam milta rahe, logon ka pyar milta rahe." So, he doesn't think of himself in any other sense. And so it's a great grounded quality, a great, quality of humility that you have. But you're also saying something very profound, which is, you know yourself very well. You understand what makes you work and the way you like to work. I think that's a very rare quality. And Kannadasan said it very well in his own way. He said, "Ni unnai arindal, ulagathil poradalam. Vazhandalum, tazhandalum, thalai vanangamal ni vazalam." But the key operative word phrase there is "Ni unnai arindal." And we don't spend that time understanding ourselves. So as much as being human is important to, living responsibly, being true, being authentic to yourself is important to living intelligently, to living happily. That's what I'm picking up. And if you look at it, all the source of our unhappiness comes from being untrue to ourselves, first of all. So you've chosen to be true. This is the way I am. This is the way I like to work. So I politely decline. But I have a related question there, and let me pop that question straight away. What happens about peer pressure? Everyone is around you, is running around trying to buy more cameras, set up studios, announce their crews and say, "This is the number of people I have, so I'll cover every part of your wedding." And particularly, you referred to the pandemic as well. So in a pandemic kind of situation, when life throws a wrench in the works, what happens? Do you feel that, no, I wish I had that extra gig. I wish I had done that, couple of assignments that I said no to. Do you have any regrets at all?
Nothing instinctively. I don't instinctively feel any regret at all. At a very academic level, I feel like, yes, if I did X, I would have been better prepared for the pandemic. But then at the same time, if I had remained a corporate lawyer, I'd have been even better off. My corporate lawyering friends are buying second cars and second houses and all of those things. So I mean, instinctively, there's no regret that I've felt. It's been a difficult time, but it's okay. It's still like I said, things. There's been things going on that's kept it going, and it was not like I really ever wanted to have like a lot of lot of money in the bank or anything like that. As long as things are comfortable, I'm pretty content. I'm pretty happy. And this, like I said, this gives me freedom, flexibility. Like, see, when the pandemic comes when the workflow comes down, at least I'm only responsible for myself. I'm not responsible for other people's livelihoods. And then I have to worry about, I mean, I would have had so many more worries if I'd had a big team and I'd employees and all of that stuff. So in that sense, it's even I could consider it a blessing, you know. And yeah, I mean, the flexibility means a lot to me. I mean, like, I could take 3 months off and go and climb a mountain. Not that I actually would, but I'm saying in theory, if I felt like it, I could do that without affecting anybody else's livelihood or, you know. So yeah, that's so yeah, no, like I said, no, the peer pressure was always there, but I never felt it instinctively. It was always very academic. Like, yeah, maybe I could do X, Y, Z, but I never really wanted to. So it was easy to resist.
Lovely, lovely. What a wise head you have on your shoulders. This whole aspect of being detached from the circus around you is important to celebrate. You know, it has to be celebrated. I'm not saying that being in the circus is bad, but if you don't belong in the circus, being part of it only to please society, only to make other people around you happy, only to show off, you know, that then you're being untrue. That's the point I'm seeing in you, and that's beautiful. Osho says this very beautifully. He says, don't look at society. Don't look at, I mean, when we say society, I mean, don't look at peer pressure. Don't look at what others are doing. They're cowards. You do what makes you happy. And we all think that we don't have important stories, that our lives are very ordinary. But I sincerely believe that all of us have very exciting stories. And yours is a story of clarity of what makes you happy, clarity of who you are. And therefore your myth is unfolding. You know, and you must celebrate that myth. That's what I'm picking up. Was it Rumi? I think it was Rumi who said, don't go with the stories of others. Unfold your own myth, he says. So don't think of how the stories of others have gone. Unfold your myth, he says. So that's what I'm picking up. Thank you for that. Akash, I'll do my last question with Vinay. I'm getting a question here, and then I'll come back to you for your question. Okay. So Vinay, my last question to you is a deeper question. Do you think this is really your bliss, photography? And let me ask it differently so you can look at it from a couple of angles. Do you think shoots excite you? Do you dissolve yourself from your daily frustrations and into your wedding shoot days? Do you kind of enjoy the process? So what happens behind the camera for you? That's really the question.
I don't know if this is my bliss, because bliss sounds like like Mount Everest, like it's like perfect happiness. Have I reached there? I don't know. I don't feel like I have. But that said, I'm happy, and it's I mean, it's a good scene. I'm content. It's and like you said, I really do enjoy the process. So that's what makes it. I mean, it's not like there aren't some boring shoots in between. Of course, there are a few, but still, the act of documenting people, I enjoy doing that, and I was actually reminded of that recently. I just shot a baptism a week ago after a gap of 2 or 3 months since my last shoot in the beginning of April. And I came out of it like elated. It was almost like a high. It
Wow.
was like and even I was sort of surprised at how happy I was doing that. So, I mean, wedding photography is not the most creative or the most artistic kind of photography or anything like that. But there's something about that interaction, about documenting an important event in people's lives that it makes me, it really makes me happy. And like I was at my sister's wedding. Obviously, I can't shoot, so I was. It's like my hands were itching. I wanted to pick up a camera and take pictures, but yeah. So it's I don't know if it's bliss because I also do some writing. I have a column for News Laundry. I did a long form piece recently, and I'm enjoying that also. And I'm actually keen to try more writing, in the coming years. So there may be a bliss of something of that sort, in there also. I did cinematography for a short film. That's also something I want to explore. So I guess I'm still sort of looking, to see if this is bliss or if there's but yes, I'm happy. I'm definitely happy. I'm content. So yeah.
You said so much in a very, again, in a trademark Vinay Aravind way, which is like, like your pictures, the way you say it is like, it's not a big deal, man, kind of thing. But you said so much, and let me kind of distill them for my own, my own takeaways and for the audience here. So on one level, you're saying that you're elated doing a shoot after 2 months. On another level, you're saying when you shot your sister's wedding, or when you were at your sister's wedding, you wish you were shooting and your hands were itching, but you couldn't obviously be shooting that day. So so those are dead giveaways of the fact that you, for you, this is a larger than ordinary stuff. This is something that's drawing you. This is something that's kind of, maybe not consuming you, but kind of continuously seducing you. This is where you belong. And can a person have more than one bliss? Of course. I mean, we've had people who talk about doing multiple things, and the key thing about bliss is it's not Mount Everest. It's not about trying to climb something, reach a peak, and it is not about getting to some destination. It is about being in the moment and dissolving in the moment. So Osho says this again very beautifully. He says, when the dancer becomes the dance, when the photographer blends with the moment, when the photographer becomes that art in the photograph, when you forget yourself behind the camera, when you are not thinking of worries, or when Akash is doing something that he's thinking of a recipe, and he's thinking of how to present it and put it on a menu, and he's losing track of time, he's losing track of what he's doing. That sense of dissolution into something, dissolving into something, that is what bliss is. So it's not an exalted state that you have to work very hard at achieving. It calls for only one criteria, which is do what you love doing. It might be gardening, it might be cooking, it might be photography, it might be writing, it might be listening to music, it might be singing, it might be painting. Whatever you love doing, do it and dissolve in the moment. So you talked about it. So I believe strongly that perhaps somewhere around there is your bliss is waiting for you. You're not a man of labels, so you don't like to give it a label, but you're a man of feelings, and I think I can feel it for you. So thank you for sharing that. Let me go to Akash. Akash, your last question. The question is really, what does a food designer really do? And what does it do to you being a food designer? Does it help you pay your bills? And if it does not, then does that really worry you? Or does it make you deliriously happy? So what does a food designer do, and what does it do to you?
Food design is a relatively new field. And I knew it when I decided to move back to India. And there are a couple of other reasons for which I moved back. One of them being my family living here, and I wanted to be close to where they are. And the second one was that I knew food here. I grew up eating my grandmother's food. I grew up eating food here, and I know what it means to us. So if I was going to be creating with food, I would be creating with my food, the food that I know. So I came back knowing that there's not really a lot of space for food design in India right now, but I was at one point confident enough that I would create my own space if I don't find any that already existed here. And that was the sort of confidence that Katya had given to me when I decided to move back. And so food design, actually what it does is it sort of questions, innovates, influences the ways in which humans connect with food. So it could be design of products starting from cutleries that help you eat, or packaging design that makes it a better experience for you to open a carton of milk and then pour it. Or it could be graphic design that helps you see a product better in a better way. So there are multiple things that food designer could do to enhance your experience with food. And I think that's what like keeps me happy, keeps me fascinating, that I can, like, each day I can wake up and then do something new with food. So I do multiple things right now that actually help me pay my bill, like curating menus for a wedding, or curating menus for a restaurant, styling food for a photo shoot, for a food product, or running a podcast with my friend that talks about the herbs and spices that are almost forgotten. Again, running a social campaign in social media that talks about forgotten vegetables. So there are multiple things that I do. Some of them pay my bills, some of them drive my passion, and there are stressful moments definitely where there is a lot of fear that that endures, that occupies your mind, and like scares you. But what keeps me going is the if you had defined bliss. So those blissful moments that I have when I'm cooking, when I'm creating a new recipe, or when I'm working with food itself. So those are the things that that the moments that keep me going. And I believe that I'm still looking for new ways in which I can find my bliss. And in that way, I'm happy that I'm looking for it, and I'm on the lookout. Yeah.
Lovely, lovely. One allied question: is the fear more financial? That will you make enough money? Is that the fear?
Yes, I would say that sometimes is what gets to you, but also a fear of when I have a family that that's looking for me, that I would that's a responsibility that I'm sharing. Now I'm single, I'm happily single, and so but to think about a little ahead of the future, so it does definitely scare me, gives fear.
Thank you for being truthful. Thank you for being honest. That is, if you are feeling fear, then you're alive. It's a good thing. But don't let the fear get to you. Face it. What we have learned, and Vaani and I have learned this through our own cathartic experience, that paisa, money, is haath ka mail hai. It's like the dust on your hand. கையில இருக்கிற தூசி மாதிரி, அது தட்டினா விழுந்துரும். One stroke of a strong breeze, and then this dust will be blown away. This sense of security that money gives you will be blown away. Money is not unimportant. You cannot live without money in today's world, but let it not be the centerpiece of everything that we choose to do. If you face your situation, if you face your fears, doors will open, and you cannot think too far ahead in life. You can have a vision, but you take it one step at a time, one moment at a time, one day at a time, and you're doing the right thing. You're waking up every day to know new things, and that excitement, that buzz, that showed when you talked about it. That excitement, that buzz showed when you talked about it. The real investment is invest in happiness. It will never lead you astray. Rumi says this again very beautifully. Allow yourself to be drawn silently by the strange pull of what you love doing. Allow yourself to be drawn silently by the strange pull of what you love doing. It will never lead you astray. VTV-ல கௌதம் மேனன் வந்து இதுக்கு நல்ல டயலாக் எழுதினாரு. What he said was that இங்க என்ன சொல்லுது, ஜெஸ்ஸின்னு சொல்லுதா, so இங்க என்ன சொல்லுது, பிளிஸ்ன்னு சொல்லுதா, that's all you need to focus on. So I think you're doing great. Thank you for answering that question very honestly, though. I really loved your answer, and I loved chatting with Vinay as well. So it's an amazing conversation we've had. I'm going to do a quick wrap and wind this evening down. So ladies and gentlemen, please stay on for me to do a wrap and kind of celebrate these two wonderful bliss catchers that have joined us today. So two wonderful stories, Vinay and Akash. Akash went and is going in the direction of what gives him happiness. He knew clearly what would give him happiness, and he moved in that direction, allowed himself to be drawn and more drawn into it. Vinay started off knowing what was making him unhappy, and he started off by moving away from the source of unhappiness, and that led him to greater clarity on what happiness and contentment truly is, and he allowed himself to be led by life. Now their two journeys kind of intertwine when you look at it from the context of the fact that life is a limited period offer. Both of them recognize this, and both of them have made a conscious choice not to postpone their happiness and to live the life that they want to live. So they're very clear about that. So when I was listening to them and I was thinking, how am I going to do my rap today? Anand Bakshi came to mind. Anand Bakshi, the famous poet, he wrote. Am I audible? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So because my internet connection just there was a notification saying it's unstable. So let me come back. So Anand Bakshi, from the movie Aapki Kasam, 1974, R.D. Burman's music. It had Rajesh Khanna, Mumtaz, and Sanjeev Kumar. Not your generation, Akash, but mine definitely, but an iconic song nevertheless. And the song is Zindagi ke safar mein guzar jate hain jo maqam wo fir nahi aate. That's the song. But there's a particular paragraph, a couple of lines in that. Ek baar chale jate hain jo din raat subah sham वो फिर नहीं आते, वो फिर नहीं आते, जिंदगी के सफर में गुजर जाते हैं जो मकाम वो फिर नहीं आते, वो फिर नहीं आते. So basically the poet says that life is flowing, and the days and nights, the mornings and evenings that pass by are not going to come back. The moment is not going to come back. So therefore he calls for us to pause and reflect on this reality of life. And that's what you both have done with your choices. Omar Khayyam says in Rubaiyat, he says he came ahead of Rumi, 11th century, Persian mathematician, astronomer, poet. And he says, the wine of life is oozing drop by drop. The leaves of life are falling one by one. So all of us on this call are older by 90 minutes already. We have 90 minutes less to live our life than we had when we started this call. And that's the truth about life. So through their journeys, we kind of understand that we should not postpone happiness. Through their journeys, we understand that we have to seize the moment. We have to seize the opportunity to live a full life in its complexity, in its imperfection, in its fears, in its worries, in its, I don't know if it's bliss, so I'm not sure, to, I think this is it, to, but then this gives me happiness, so let me continue to do it. So that's how you explore life, and that's what both of you made it wonderful for me to take away this evening. So thank you for joining us, Akash and Vinay. Let me take a moment to share with you a virtual souvenir that Vaani and I would like to leave with you. We'll share it with you here, but then I'll also send it over WhatsApp to both of you. These are your Bliss Catcher buttons. These buttons are to be worn proudly. So wear it on your WhatsApp DP, wear it on Facebook, on Instagram, as a story, on LinkedIn, because the very fact that you've chosen to follow your bliss is an act of courage. And you're willing to go with the adventure of life. And that's what we are celebrating here. So thank you for doing this with Vaani and me. It's wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us from all over. Small, discerning audience, but thank you for staying on with us. Our next program will be an edition of Happiness Conversations, and we are bringing you the story of an amazing young man. He's all of 28, Zoeb Zia. Zoeb, at the age of 16, could not walk anymore. He was hale and hearty, he was fine, but he could not walk anymore. He needed the help of walls to stand up. His gait started drooping, and he started, experiencing slurring speech. They went to doctors. Doctors concluded he had a neurological condition, but they could not define it. Hospitals and hospitals and hospitals and more hospitals over 10 years. And finally, they could not, at the end of 10 years, they took 10 years actually to diagnose his condition as a form of ataxia, a degenerative neurological disorder, a rarest of rare disease that does not have a cure. But in this time, Zoeb actually learned to accept life. He developed the resilience to deal with his new normal. And today he teaches zoology at a college in Chennai. He is a gamer, he's a foodie. So Akash, there's a friend for you out there. And he is also planning to learn scuba diving. So he says, no full stops in my life. And that's the story of Zoeb that we're going to explore in Happiness Conversations, 28th August, 7 p.m. free and here on Zoom. So if you're not on our mailing list but would like to be added on to it, please leave your details on our website or through our website, write to us, or reach out to us on Instagram at @happynesswalas. The details are on your screen. And please send us your name, email ID, mobile number, and the name of the city you live in, and we'll add you to our mailing list. So that's it from Vaani and me, ladies and gentlemen. An absolutely wonderful conversation. Thank you, Vinay, and thank you, Akash. Long distance hug to both of you. We would also leave you all with the same thought that I started with. If you are engaging with people outside your homes, please, please, please wear double masks. Please maintain a safe distance, and please wash your hands regularly with soap. It's together that we can fight the coronavirus. Thank you so much. Good evening and enjoy the weekend. Be happy, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Akash.
Thank you, Vinay, and thank you, Akash.
Thank you, both of you.
I'll stop the recording.